the body has an innate capacity to heal. And if you study a very mechanistic view about the way the body functions, those are just models of understanding. But fast forward to information biology or contemporary understanding of biology, it's more vitalistic, that there's an energy that the body feeds off of. And so then I was reasoning with the idea. I'd been doing martial arts, I had a yoga studio, I had gotten quite extensive training in hypnosis. I was interested in this stuff, so I kind of knew that there was an intelligence living within us. My background as a chiropractor also believes in that innate intelligence, and so I thought, well, that intelligence knows how to heal, but I want to see if I could take it to the next level, because it wasn't just pain, it was paralysis, it was sensory changes, and I went from very healthy guy to be laying face down, not going anywhere.
Competing in a fitness competition.
Yeah, like here I am, like, that's it. So I just reasoned that if it wasn't intelligence, then I could connect with it. And so I decided that I was just going to give it a plan and a template, a design, and then when I was clear on that design, I'd surrender it to this intelligence, because I can't do the healing. It knows how to heal way better than me, but I wanted to take it to that next level. The bones heal, but I wanted them to heal better. And it worked. So I knew that when you're in pain, when you're in crisis, when you're in trauma, when people are out of balance emotionally because of stress, the normal way the brain works is it prepares for the worst. So when we're injured, we're in crisis, we're selecting the worst thing that could happen to us instead of the best thing that could happen to us. And when you select that future, there's an emotional response like fear or anxiety. Turns out that those chemicals give the body an arousal, and they give them a rush, give us a rush. So here I am trying to focus on what I do want to have happen.
Right.
But my brain keeps going back to what I don't want to have happen. So 6.5 weeks of a dark night of the soul, because I had to train my brain, and I knew if I said the design has to be pure, it has to be complete, I have to reconstruct every vertebrae. If I lose my focus and I start thinking about living in a wheelchair, whoops, that's the wrong signal. So just by intuition, I started working on my presence, my ability to pay attention and stay present. And every time I lost the present moment, I would come back. And I started to notice that when I got frustrated and I did it, would get worse. When I just noticed that it happened and I came back,
non-judgment observation.
Yeah, there was just no emotional reaction, there was no charge, and I was able to navigate. And at the end of 6 weeks, I just felt like I hit a tennis ball in the sweet spot.
So were you just, so was this meditation, pure just meditation, or was this intentional of a visualization of something?
It was both.
Visualizing?
It was both. I knew that I'd have to first get in the present moment.
Yeah.
You know when someone's present with you in your life because they're paying attention. You know when they're not present with you, they're not paying attention. So this is an intelligence. I got to be present with it and create a very clear design. So then I would have to, what I knew from my background in hypnosis is I would have to slow my brain waves down, get beyond my analytical mind. Now, once I'm in that state, I would have a clear intention, a very clear intention and very clear focus. And when I started doing it well, my emotional state started to change. Instead of feeling frustrated, fearful, impatient, resentful, I was feeling joy and freedom, and because I was suppressing those emotional states every time I got present, because those emotions bring us back to the past. So I had to work over time. And what I didn't know that I was doing the whole entire time was I was improving my brain's ability to pay attention and focus. That means I could visualize better.
Yeah.
But secondly, more importantly, I was able to relax more into the present moment. And by doing that and holding a very clear picture, I started to notice very strong changes in my brain. I was laying down new circuits. I was creating a new mind, and nerve cells that fire together wire together. If you keep doing it, just like driving a race car, it's going to get easier because you become what you practice. But you got to pay attention. You got to repeat it. You got to learn. You got to keep experiencing. So at the end of 6 weeks, it just kind of all came together. But those 6 weeks, I was struggling because it was just kind of this unlearning process. It was pruning neurological, breaking habits of thought and emotions. And then it worked. And so then I was back on my feet in 10 weeks. And then I just said if I was ever able to walk again, I'd spend the rest of my life studying the mind-body connection and mind over matter. And that's what I've been doing since 1986. I love medicine, and I have a great respect for it, and it really works well for chronic, acute conditions. You break your leg, you have appendicitis.
Traumas.
But chronic health conditions require a lifestyle change. That means you got to make different choices, and the hardest part about change is making a new choice. So go back 30 years and the doctor said to you, she said, hey, you need this kind of health treatment for this health condition. We're going to take out your uterus, and if we're in there, we'll take out your gallbladder. And everybody just said, oh, great, thank you, you know.
Take it all. I don't need it.
Fast forward to today, you got information. And information is awareness, and awareness is consciousness. So there's a change in consciousness about what's available. So when people get a diagnosis today, they don't just sign on the dotted line, they actually research their own health condition. When you do that, it gives you more choices to make. So then when they start saying to the doctor, hey, I'd like to try this treatment, or I'd like to try this therapy, and the doctor says, oh, that doesn't work, or I don't know anything about that, they say, great, time to find a new doctor. So people are starting to make better health choices when they're in a better position. So during that time, there was not a lot of evidence back in the 80s and 90s that said that this was possible. In fact, you were considered a hippie, right?
Yeah.
But now you fast forward to today, and because information is so available and people are starting to apply that information, now we're starting to see dramatic changes. We've done numerous brain scans to show that you can change your brain in 4 days for the better. 80% of 1,000 people had a more than 90% change in their brain for the better just by practicing meditation. We know that you can train your heart to work more coherently. That means that when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're impatient, your heart beats out of rhythm. That's how powerful you are. And it really suppresses certain genes. So then change your emotional state. Wow, you start to see people practicing this kind of regulations. We have evidence that people can do that. We have evidence you can change your genes in 4 days. You can change your gene expression. You can make your immune system stronger by changing your emotional state. You can lengthen your life with just 60 days of meditation, 5 days a week. We've proven that you can lengthen your telomeres. So now you have evidence that common people can do the uncommon. You don't have to be a monk. You don't have to be a nun. You don't have to be a priest, an academic. The common people are beginning to wrap their minds around this and do the uncommon.
There's evidence. This isn't just mystical information.
So there it is. Science is that model. And then we have testimony. Like we have people that have healed themselves of stage 4 cancer, not once, not twice, not 3 times, and 4 times, over and over again. We have people that have healed themselves that were blind, that were deaf, that had tumors, that had Graves' disease, Hashimoto's syndrome, numerous Parkinson's patients, brain injuries, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, rare genetic disorders.
Is this the stuff Jesus was doing back in the day? I mean, that's what I'm hearing, is curing blindness and stuff.
Well, no, if anybody is surprised, I have to tell you that it's me. I never thought I would see these kind of changes. Now you have evidence. You have evidence right now in testimony. So now evidence becomes the loudest voice, right? Yeah. So doctors now are saying, hey, you're not really responding to treatment. Why don't you try this? Now let me tell you why they're saying that. And that's because if you say, try this, and you see the evidence of people getting better, and the person's not responding to treatment, what else do you have? And doctors are now oncologists are referring patients right to our office, right to our events, because it's an option for them. So then you have 3 types of stress: physical, chemical, and emotional. Stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of balance. The stress response is what your body innately does to return it back to order. All organisms can tolerate short-term stress. But the chronic stress is what pushes the genetic buttons that create disease. Now, most stress ends up as emotional or psychological stress. So physical stress, trauma, accidents, injuries, falls. Chemical stress, toxins, pesticides, pollutants, bacteria, viruses, molds, hangovers. And then you have emotional stress, family tragedies, second mortgages, single parenting, 401ks, traffic, whatever. And all of those things knock the brain and body out of homeostasis. But the emotional stress is the challenge, because the person can be taking care of their body, eating all the right foods, taking all the drugs, taking all the right vitamins, all the enzymes, doing the things, doing yoga, doing long distance running, whatever it is that they're into. But if they're living in constant fear because of some threat in their outer world that's either real or imagined, or they're so mismanaging of their thoughts that those thoughts keep producing the fears, they're turning on that stress response by thought alone. then they could eat the most organic, healthy diet, do all the right exercise, but the body's living in survival because that's stress. So now you're mobilizing all this energy for some threat in your outer world. And there's no energy in your inner world for growth and repair. And so your body is actually utilizing all of its vital resources when it's feeling fear, when it's feeling aggression or anger, when it's feeling pain and suffering. The body is mobilizing enormous amounts of resources. If you're being chased by a tiger, you're not going to use 20% of your resources. You're going to go all in, right? So then what if it's not a tiger? What if it's just traffic? So what was once highly adaptive becomes very maladaptive. And when you turn on the stress response and you can't turn it off, now you're headed for disease. Well, your body is a protein-producing machine. Muscle cells make muscle proteins called actin and myosin.
Do we need to eat protein, by the way? That's always something I wonder whether or not we really do. Okay.
Skin cells make skin proteins called collagen and elastin. Your immune system makes immune proteins called immunoglobulins or antibodies. Your stomach cells make stomach proteins called enzymes. Your eye cells make eye proteins called keratin. So the body's a protein-producing machine. Every cell in your body, Danica, makes a protein except for red blood cells. And in order for a cell to make a protein, a gene has to be signaled. So this is a genes create disease. Less than 1% of the people on the planet are born with genetic conditions like type 1 diabetes, Tay-Sachs disease. The other 95 to 99%.
People want to hear that and people don't want to hear that.
Of course not, because that means you can't be a victim
Accountability.
anymore. You can't be a victim, right?
Exactly.
So 95 to 99% are created from lifestyle. You can take two identical twins, same exact gene expression, same exact genome. One dies at 55, the other one dies at 81. Why? They're in a different environment, or their perception of the environment. Right. So now it's not that the gene is a parts list of possibilities.
Right.
So now, here's the point. If a person is perceiving the environment or in an environment where they're constantly living in fear, or anxiety, or anger, or aggression, or frustration, then it makes sense then that those emotions would influence certain thoughts. And certain thoughts would make certain feelings or certain emotions. Well, if you're living by the same emotions every single day, it's the environment that signals the gene. The end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion. So your body is objective. If you're living in fear, whether there's any fearful conditions in your environment, your body's believing it's in an environment where it needs to feel fear. So then the person then keeps signaling the same gene because they're feeling the same emotion. They're responding to the same environmental condition. They're signaling the same gene. You keep making the same protein. You keep signaling the same gene over time. It's like taking a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. All of a sudden the body starts making a cheaper protein. The gene down-regulates and now the body's moving out of balance. So then here's the question. If you're thinking the same thoughts, making the same choices, demonstrating the same behaviors, creating the same experiences that produce the same emotions, and then those same emotions influence your very same thoughts, then your biology, your neurocircuitry, your neurochemistry, your hormones, and your gene expression is going to be equal to how you think, how you act, and how you feel. And how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality.
I love that.
So if you're going to change your life, change your personal reality, you got to change your personality. You got to start changing your thoughts. You got to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and say, do I really want to think this? Like, you become the shepherd of your thoughts, the gardener of your own mind. You start to become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors and say, my goodness, how am I speaking? How am I acting? You start looking at emotions that you live by every day and say, my goodness, I didn't even know it was guilt. It just feels like me. Or lack, and now the person's becoming conscious of their unconscious part of themselves. And the more conscious we become of the unconscious self, the less unconscious we go during the day. So it begs the question, new thoughts that lead to new choices that lead to new behaviors, new behaviors create new experiences produce new emotions are the information coming from the environment, they signal new genes and there's evolution. So now we upregulate the gene, you start making a healthy protein. The immune system starts upregulating and all of a sudden it makes new antibodies. Why? Because the body's back in growth and repair and out of survival. So we did a research study for 4.5 days. We took 35 randomly selected people And we measured 7,500 different gene regulations. And what we want them to do is to think differently, make new choices, do different things, have new experiences, and feel new emotions. And we wanted to see in the end of 4.5 days if they were able to change their gene expression. And they had 8 genes in common. All of them shared the same gene expression of these 8 genes. 2 genes that suppress cancer growth and tumors. Genes that grow new neurons in your brain, not just make new connections, but grow new neurons. Genes that stimulate stem cells to go to damaged tissues that are dying and breaking down and repair them. Genes for oxidative balance, anti-cancer, anti-aging, anti-heart disease, anti-stroke.
They all had all the same ones?
These are the 8 they had in common, but there were other ones, that were great ones as well. But these 8 were the common ones. And genes to strengthen the cellular structure, the microtubules of the cell. Now, genes are like Christmas tree lights. They're turning on and off all the time. But if you're doing the same things, feeling the same emotions, thinking the same thoughts, you got the same lights on and the other lights off. And over time, you start signaling the very gene that's on the surface of your genetic propensity. And now you're headed in that direction. So then, is it possible then, when you change your emotional state, will you change your gene expression? And the answer is absolutely, that you are your own genetic engineer. Now, it may take some time for certain people.